So what are you guys studying in MUST? What is your guys' major? Education. Oh, nice. How about you? Your major?
Pharmacy.
Oh, pharmacy. Cool. So why you guys came to this lecture?
I need to read some paper about AI, which relates to upwards.
Okay. I'm not sure it will be very specific, but yeah. In the afternoon, there is a Chinese one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing, almost a little bit different, but with a Chinese instructor. You guys can also try to come. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, almost the same content, but a little bit different because we are not doing very detailed presentation. It's more like a general understanding. Another shy student. In the front, yeah, me neither. Okay, when I was a student, I also did it.
How about the last time you go to with the
It's a bit different.
yeah, I see
It's not the same.
content is not the same.
In my presentation, we have also changed. I removed some repeated, I think, information that is not. But maybe the Chinese lecture in the afternoon, maybe a little bit different.
I think you and one is better than Doris.
For this, yes, 100%.
So you not change the PPT
At all?
Yeah, so use the few years ago the version.
Okay, no, we had to change a lot. Even my English version had to change.
When the last time she did the period and I see and this is still give more option. She did not change. And I see after the PPT she did not give.
How many is her presentation? Already,
yeah. And I think it's the when the
last week?
no in the October maybe 4 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next week we have to discover help.
And the last and the yesterday and I see said maybe she need to let her team member to
Do the presentation instead.
but she did not want. So I said maybe if you do not want to do this, maybe you can let your team member to do and let them to have more exercise and something maybe better and let them do more things. Let them, but she did not want that.
Actually, I don't know if they also. That's also another problem.
But maybe we can, how to say that, we can, how to say it? We can let them to do more.
I know if they want. That's also. Because I know Cherry and Sylvia, maybe they don't want to do it. But maybe they have no choice. We have no choice. One who will tell them. Yeah. Well, I'm okay. For me, it's okay. But for example, I know Yuki doesn't want, or even Ella.
Yeah, but maybe they can try. They can try.
Yeah,
try is better. I think they can try, and maybe it can to how to say that it can give them a opportunity to practice some speaking.
Yeah, be more relaxed or comfortable with speaking with an audience.
Because they over too many years they do not
do this. Yes,
they do not like the new
new things. Always like this. Okay, but this is always with them.
But they do not pretend there is a little guy. Yes, they need to move.
More challenge, more. Yeah. Should I start? I think it's only the four of us.
Okay.
I think it's okay. Okay. I start.
你咪落格啊？落格啊？
Okay, I will start. Okay, later I call you guys if you guys need to have some work. Okay, hello, 4 students coming. So today we are going to talk and do a brief presentation on algorithm literacy, breaking filter bubbles. So as you might be aware, I think this is maybe a common knowledge nowadays for you guys that are in Xiaohongshu, Douyin, or even Instagram, and other platforms. This is not basically on this. That is very common for us when we use this platform to mostly have interests that belong only to us. And this platform will, of course, feed this into you. So basically what we're going to talk a little bit today and explain very briefly is exactly about this, filter bubbles, or also information cocoons. So what we're going to talk about mostly is what is a filter bubble, some social media algorithms and filter bubbles, techniques to escape filter bubbles, and some tasks in open discussion. Okay, so first of all, one of the things nowadays we grapple with, both in the East and the West, is actually the accuracy of information. You guys nowadays are studying in a university, you have to do research, and of course, we as librarians, we provide this information for you guys through databases. The teachers provide also through their classes, books, and you can find a lot of information that is provided to you in a very stable and consistent and accurate manner. However, when you are going on your own for any kind of platform or website, what you deal with is a lot of inaccuracy and a lot of noise, what we call noise in information. So this kind of situation is very common when you're on your own, and not only when you're dealing with, well, let's say your personal interests, but also nowadays there have been some issues or some situations of this inaccuracy bubbling up to the scientific community or other types of, or other research niche groups. And so one of the things we usually try to build everyone to be a little bit more aware of this inaccuracy versus the accuracy of what you are reading, of what you are accessing, and of what you have in front of you in a computer or mobile phone. So for example, some questions we can ask ourselves is, do you follow accounts from different fields and viewpoints? And this can also be not only, for example, in the Ying or Xiaohongshu, but also, for example, in some, even in your own research. Are you aware that, for example, you have different perspectives from the same theory or different perspectives from different professors in the same field? So this is actually really good questions that you can ask yourself when you're developing this research and in your personal life. For example, do you follow the accounts of the different fields and viewpoints? I know, for example, a lot of scholars in MUST have Twitter, and some of the scholars that have Twitter, they're actually not from the same area, or they are from the same area, but have very different research, even in the same field. For example, do you follow that? Are you attentive to that, or are you only focused on one teacher in specific, or vice versa? Then, do you follow accounts? Okay, then there's a source distribution, which is, are you sharing posts from a wide range of sources? So this can mean, okay, in your personal life, you can follow several different platforms on social media, but also even in research, and when you are doing like for your articles or your books, when you're doing this research, are you finding like, what are the sources that you're going to get besides what the library provides, which is the normal database like Scopus, WS, or other databases, what are you going to get it? Are you going to CNKI or Wanfang or some other, for example, let's say in social studies and humanities, you have a lot of different databases that are not as wide as like Scopus or WS, but are also important and are also verified. But are you going there to search or not? And then do you just rely on one or two platforms? And do you notice repetitive topics and similar content? Another thing is, for example, the opposing views. So are you actively searching for counter arguments? I know that when you guys are developing research and also articles, nowadays your teachers may tell you to do the literature review. And literature review is also one of the good things to put into practice the accuracy self-check, which basically means you go and search for, let's say, the point of view you want to defend, but also point of views that you don't necessarily agree with, or that you don't want to research, but that you need to make sure you have this opposing view and are able to prove maybe your point of view better by using someone else's opposing point of view. So this is actually very important. And another thing is, do you feel uncomfortable or when rejecting different opinions? So how do you feel when someone, like, for example, opposes your idea, or when your teacher questions you and asks you, are you sure this is correct? Is your viewpoint accurate, or is your viewpoint well-based, well-founded? Like, do you have proof of what you're trying to defend? So this is something you can keep in mind. This is my colleague who actually did the original presentation for this. And you guys can come in the afternoon, by the way, because it's all in Chinese. She created this based on social media. So this is, well, one is from TikTok, and how they basically, TikTok bloggers exploit platform algorithms to create information cocoon for their customers. In this case, this is a little bit personalized. So for example, let's say she will follow these 3 accounts. And then, for example, the TikTok will actually recommend all of these accounts, which are actually related. So most of them will be like family or lifestyle or along those lines. And this is not only for TikTok. As you guys know, if you guys have Instagram, this is also happening there and in many other platforms. I think even on YouTube, though the algorithm is a little bit different on YouTube. But this is mostly what you guys will find. Even when I go to my Xiaohongshu, it's mostly things I already liked or I already interacted with. So this is actually very common. I'm sure you guys are aware of this. And for example, the same happens with Taobao. All of us use Taobao on a daily basis, and we are very familiar with it. So imagine this is my colleague's search history. And she's very focused on like purchasing, for example, like jewelry, clothes. And these are all the recommended products that she then finds every time she logs into Taobao and explores a little bit. You guys also are very aware of this, so this is not uncommon. But this is basically how algorithm works in practice. So there are 2 things we should maybe define while we are talking about this, which is information cocoon. So this, and I'm just going to read because it's simpler for me to do so. So information cocoon refers to environments that individuals are exposed to similar ideas and which are consistent with either their beliefs or the things they like or any other interests, and are distanced from contradictory viewpoints. Basically, this means that you build your own algorithm. And this is what is called the information cocoon. And it's a little bit different, for example, from a filter bubble, because a filter bubble usually is built, well, you contribute to it, but it's usually built by the platform that you are on. In this case, it's not only about you. They will feed you what you want to see, what they think you want to see. And then it kind of snowballs into there. So usually for information cocoon, it's like you are doing it to yourself. Like you're only searching for a specific topic, you're only searching for specific content, and you're very mindful about what you're feeding into yourself. And this is, there are 2 major differences. So maybe we can also put it here. Okay. So this could be a difference you guys can, this could be a difference you guys can feed on it. So information cocoon will be self-inflicted. So that means that you basically do it to yourself. You only search for specific things. You only go and look for that kind of specific topic or people or content. While the filter bubble is mostly a two-way. So it's basically the platform, plus you also choose it by yourself by the way you interact with it. And here is just some, how to say, like, definitions. Later, if you guys want, I can also send you the presentation, because this one is, this is bilingual, but the one in the afternoon is only Chinese. So if you guys want, later, me and my colleague, we can send you guys a presentation. I can give you my email. You guys just need to email us there. So this is just some little definitions, and you don't need to pay much attention to it. Now, even though I think most of you guys have heard of these concepts, if not at least in social media, but at least in the news. So I'm just going to go briefly through them. So information cocoon, a close communication environment with only self-selected, comfortable content. Filter bubble is personalized content filtered by platforms based on user data, but remember, this user is you. And echo chamber is a repetition and amplification of similar views in a closed group. And information filter is similar to filter bubble, user preference, filter content, but it's mostly the same. So how, focusing on information cocoons, how are we forming this? So first, so social media and search engines use algorithms to predict and recommend content that users may be interested. And this is based on historical behavior, so the clicks, how much time you spend on it, etc. And then they often have some information filtering mechanisms, and the platform usually optimizes recommendation results. So for example, I know in TikTok, this is actually really fast paced, and it happens like really, really fast. While I think, for example, for YouTube and what was the other one? I'm forgetting. It's a little bit slower. So of course, depends on which platform, how are they defining their algorithm, based. For example, I know YouTube is mostly through the recommended page, so the first page at the beginning. But for example, TikTok is not. TikTok is immediately when you immediately log onto the page, and just the brief thing of going forward or just putting a like, it's already giving them a tons of information, and the algorithm works really fast. Even though they don't disclose the algorithm, they keep it privately, which I understand, but yeah. And then we have the user preference reinforcement, so which is basically users tend to select information that is consistent with their own views. For example, if you're depressed, you tend to go for depressed posts, and then the algorithm picks up on that and feeds it into you, but you keep selecting that content and you keep interacting with it. So you are choosing it little by little, but in a very fast way. So the platform will immediately know what you want to see. And eventually they will try to feed you something different, but always they will always somehow, let's say, for example, in the case of TikTok, you watch you interact, should I say, with 3 depress related posts, then they will feed you something funny, but then they will keep bringing you the depressed post, something else again, just to make sure and to focus on your choice. So it's basically a choice that you are making. And TikTok will know that immediately. They will immediately know, for example, what you are doing. And then the feedback loop. So it's constantly adjusted based on the user feedback and user behavior. For example, I remember a few weeks ago, I searched for a specific book. And just the fact that I searched for that specific book, it kept giving me recommendations for other books related to that, or posts related to books. It was really fast, and it was just me searching on the search bar. I didn't even interact it on the recommendation feed. So what are the impacts on individuals? So usually we'll have a very narrow worldview. And I think you guys know this. This is happening nowadays with, for example, US politics, with the extreme right and extreme left. So people are very divided, and people only see content that they like. So they will only feed on specific content. And, this makes the worldview that you have, and even your opinion of what is going on around you, very small. You really specify either too much, and you lose focus of everything that's really around you. Then you have some polarized beliefs. So this is very easily done in the West. I think they manipulate very well. For example, the people they are trying to manipulate, for example, either politically or religiously. This happens very frequently. So they will just, for example, only contact similar viewpoints, and they have a difficulty in understanding something different or what other people are talking that is different from they actually believe or want to believe, I should say. This also leads to poor decision making, so lack of diverse reference affecting judgment power or accuracy or decision making. So a lot of the times we have seen, well, I think maybe you guys will be aware of the situation with Charlie Kirk, the guy that was killed not very long ago. In this case, like the person who killed him, they were actually from the same, well, let's say politically inclined situation, but the problem was maybe they have just a despairing view on something small. This something small escalated to this big thing, which was this person killing another person, which is kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, it's just so you guys can check, like the person who killed Charlie Kirk was so focused maybe on a specific point, he wouldn't let go. And this is like what can happen. Like your own behaviors will be fed, well, by this own self-inflicted cocoon or bubble, and you can lose sight of actually what's important. And then, of course, weaken critical thinking, habitually accept similar information, reducing the ability to question and criticize information. So after a while, you keep receiving the same information, you don't even question it. It's a given. And this is a huge problem. And reinforce cognitive bias. So this excess confirmation bias and making it easier to believe information consistent with established opinions. So no matter what anyone says, like if it's talking about something that you believe, you will always say yes. You won't even question it. You won't research it for yourself. You just accept it as is. And this is very dangerous. And then, of course, we have the impact on society. So different groups from information islands lack communication and, understanding. So basically this feeds social division. That means we are a little bit far away from each other who don't agree with us. And, as again, I'm pretty sure you guys know this is not healthy. All of us, for example, we have family members, right? And that we cannot escape because we are related to them by blood. And they don't have the same opinion as us, but that doesn't mean we hate them or we don't want to be with them. It just means that, they're different people, and that's okay. But in society nowadays, we are bringing this to the extreme. And it's like we can't accept anyone that has a different opinion from us. And this is so dangerous because this is not healthy. If you think about it, you need to have someone who constantly checks your beliefs. Like, are you sure that's right? Are you sure this is like the truth? Don't you want to research a little bit more? And usually this is the healthy way to process this. But turns out we are actually being very isolated at this point. And then we have, of course, opinion polarization. So the opinions within specific little groups reinforce each other. So you can't really escape it. And then we have the fake news. Everybody knows this. This is very common also in the West, especially nowadays with this political inflamed environment. Then, of course, damaged democracy. This is lack of comprehensive information by citizens, and they can't think straight. They cannot make decisions that will actually benefit them. For example, nowadays, maybe you guys don't know this, but this is very specific. But in Portugal, there was some elections recently, and a lot of people, for example, voted also for the extreme right, which made a lot of the population very shocked, for example, for this, because Portugal is not a country that has ever, or well, it has some at some point, but not recently. And this was all because exactly of this. Like the little groups made everybody so separate and so willing to fight each other that eventually, like, it leads to bad decision making. And some of those decisions, some of the people they voted are actually not that good for society, because they don't want equality, or they don't want to, I don't know, privatize. They don't want it to make public. So this is actually a big, big concern. And then, for example, loss of social consensus. So different groups based on different information bases cannot have a common ground. They lack this common understanding of, okay, I know you're different. I know I'm different from you, but let's come together and find a solution in between. And this is actually something that's happening right now all over the world, I think. So this is just some information about algorithms. So algorithm is clearly define instructions or steps that the platforms use to solve a specific problem or perform a specific task. This is actually not a concept that is only used for social media. This is actually have been used for computer science for so long, but they are used uh, in in social media as a way to fix this problem, which is to find the connection between user and interests and keep feeding on this. So in this case, the algorithm is just a way to solve this problem, which is to find how users think, what do they want. And this is just a little brief timeline. So Facebook first introduces ranked personality feeds. So this is the birth of algorithm recommendations around 2009. And then, it developed really rapidly. And then in 2016, TikTok or the rose to powerful short video recommendation through algorithm. Before TikTok, they had in the US something called the Vines. Do you guys know Vine? No, it's too old. Okay. But it was something like TikTok, very short form video. And it was used mostly for comic relief. So it was like jokes or something like this. It was not like TikTok. I think TikTok is very diversified. Like they have serious topics, they have funny things, they have like, I don't know, other type of content. And Vine was mostly like comic relief or some type of like sketches or memes, something like this. But it wasn't successful because it was, I think, too early. But it was the predecessor for TikTok. And then nowadays we are on the era of algorithm governance, and we don't have almost any transparency towards this, which is a little bit concerning. After 2009, now people are trying to ask for platforms to be transparent of how their algorithm calculates the interest, like how the algorithm works. Like, for example, why does TikTok algorithm and Instagram algorithm work so fast? Like, what are they exactly using to predict what we will like and to measure this? And then, for example, a recommendation algorithm, which is mostly what we work on with social media, is that our technical systems, and they will, as I said, predict and recommend based on what you interact with and the historical preferences and context. And, nowadays you really cannot escape it. Even in Taobao is already very accurate, and I'm not sure they are transparent with their algorithm, but I would be personally very interested to know how they do theirs, even though most people want the TikTok one, but I want the Taobao. And so basically what they do is, when you have a recommendation algorithm, is okay, in a unbiased way, you can basically predict, right, what people want, what are their interests. So if you're not thinking about in a positive or negative way, it's just going to increase platform activity. So basically this is what social platforms or even other kind of apps want. It's just for you to interact with the app and to make sure you keep using the app. And I think you guys also know this. This is not a very outward situation. And then basically it's intelligent analysis and prediction based on three major elements. So they basically use historical records. So basically what you have interacted previously, object features, and also context environment. For example, what day of the month is it? Is it near the holidays? Why are you making this purchase? And the algorithm will actually calculate all of this and will feed it into the system, and then they will calculate. And for example, this is why a lot of people, when there's the 11/11 in Taobao, if I'm not mistaken, they already know how to. This was calculated based on something, so they just didn't start this out of nowhere. They have probably researched when would people be more interested to buy, why this specific timeline, what were they going to do. For example, maybe, I don't know, for some between holidays, people are more willing to buy or more relaxed, or at night, for example. A lot of the times Taobao shops have discounts after 10 p.m. because it's when people stay at home and buy. And so this is all calculated in a way to make you interact with the app. And of course, the bilateral effect, which can improve information acquisition efficiency, but may also lead to information silence. So kind of limits, like my colleague showed in her Taobao, like it will limit a little bit what you want, something different. You will only see what you search and what you interact with. So now we have some collaborative filtering technology. So usually these are actually very commonly used. And the core idea is that to predict missing preferences or ratings based on the known preferences or ratings of some users, recommended content that users may be interested by analyzing the similarities between users or items. And for example, in this case, we have the user base, which is find similar use plus recommend what they like, mostly based on social networks, so Douyin, Instagram, Xiaohongshu, or even YouTube. And then you have the item base, which is find similar items and recommend them based on past likes, like you guys saw with my colleagues' Taobao history. And this is for like Taobao or Amazon also works with this, and others. They're not the only ones. So for example, we have here some some platforms that you can check. And for example, for TikTok is the watch rate plus likes and comments. And of course, what do they want is to maximize watch time. And for example, YouTube is also extended watch time because YouTube is a little bit like, well, not really necessarily like Bilibili, but almost. And what do you have? You have videos that are longer. For example, especially if you are interacting with someone who is doing, I've seen, for example, professors post some research videos on their YouTube. It's like 1 hour plus. So what do they want? They want you to stay that 1 hour plus on YouTube to watch that video. And for example, Instagram is the interaction frequency, so balanced social plus discovery. That's why, for example, when you have your For You page, the things they recommend is usually well, related to what you usually like, plus what all your friends like, or the friends that you interact the most with. So it's maybe like a social kind of algorithm based. You have your own interests plus your friends' interests, and the people who you connect the most. For example, let's say you have 700 Instagram friends, you talk with 5 of them, like you exchange private messaging with 5 of them. Instagram will pick up on these 5 people that you most talk to and will feed what they are watching as well. And, you know, this is just like a part of social. It's like you can't escape it. I think for other platforms, maybe will happen the same thing. Maybe Douyin or maybe Xiaohongshu. I'm not sure. But at least Instagram, they will be based on this. It's like, who do you interact the most? What videos are they watching? What videos are you sharing within your private messaging? And they will pick up on this and suggest more to you. Okay, then so as we already realized, so the core of the core goal of the platform algorithm is always to maximize user engagement with a specific app or platform. And so, for example, they want to improve user interaction experience. They want increased platform activity. They want user attachment. For example, I know some people are just on the bus scrolling, what we call in the West doom scrolling. And the reason why it's doom is because you can't escape it. It's like, it's a never ending. It's a never ending scrolling. That's why it's doom. It's because you keep going on and on and on and on. And it really is like an addiction at this point. And achieve commercialization. So, you know, now we can buy pretty much everything in Xiaohongshu, Douyin, also, even Instagram. The shops are there. You can already do purchases and have it delivered to your house. It's very convenient. And also, of course, balanced content ecosystem. So after all of this, we have some type of loop that we can't escape, like a little thing which keeps feeding on itself. So we have, for example, for data collection, they track user behavior. And then after the analysis is to identify the interest patterns that you provide to the app. You have content filtering. And then, of course, you have pushed content, customized content. So this is like something that keeps feeding on itself. And then you have the user tags. And of course, this is reinforcement, like the cyclic reinforcement. It keeps like going on and on and on. It's something you really can't escape it unless you stop interacting with it and you give it some time. So maybe we start with the disadvantages because that's what we've been focusing on. So you will have a limited vision scope, as we already discussed. You have polarization, you have manipulation as well, because If you keep interacting with something and you keep yourself very isolated from other types of information, you are more easily to be manipulated by what you already follow, and you accept it as right instead of questioning it. And then, of course, as we said before, the critical thinking is weakened little by little. Then the advantages. Okay, you have info discovery, which is very efficient. So, for example, let's talk about in terms of research. If you are usually interacting with a lot of a specific topic or research, of course, you'll have something very efficient happening, which is because it feeds into that loop. So you will always be following like new stuff that is happening within your research. And this can be something that is an advantage, can be good for you in a way. Then you, of course, you have the option of personalized experience. So you yourself, as we discussed there, you are always a part, like, because it's self-inflicted, you are always a part of this. Like, you cannot only blame it on the app. It's always based on what you feed it, what you interact with. So actually it's personalized to you. And then, of course, the reduced info overload, you have less noise. And when we call information noises, sometimes when we are trying to find something, sometimes it can feel like an ocean of information and you're drowning, basically. But if you are using something like this, one of the advantages, of course, you will find yourself on a boat, and the boat is what you build. So it feels a little bit safer. And of course, the discovery of new interests will sometimes come up because you're going so much within your bubble. When you discover something new is, of course, often by chance, but it can happen. So some of the techniques to escape the filter bubbles or even information cocoons is, how can we break through? And we have thought about 6 techniques that you guys can try. And I think all of you have done this at some point. Even if you didn't think like very rationally, oh, I need to do this because I need to escape. No, I think you probably did this either because you were tired or you felt overwhelmed, or yeah, it was a little bit too much. So for example, one of the things you can do is adjust the platform settings. So this can work for any app that you have been working with, or even any database. When you're doing your research, you can turn off personalized recommendations. So a lot of the times these apps, I'm not sure all of them nowadays, but I know YouTube and Instagram still have it. I never tried on the Chinese apps because I don't personally think I need it. But for example, you can turn off the personalized recommendations. So this will mean that the app will not necessarily recommend something to you based on what you've seen before. But this doesn't always work, by the way. I'm not saying that this works 100%, because it absolutely does not. They will somehow keep feeding stuff to you. And then you can, this is something that works really pretty frequently, for example, even in Google related apps. So you can clear the browsing history and cookies. And this actually is very common thing to do. Sometimes your computer, like maybe your browser will be too slow or you can't log in. You guys probably do this very often. And so this is something you guys do without even thinking, but actually helps to release a little bit of this pressure within the bubble and without letting it stay so close. And then of course, tighten privacy settings. So a lot of the times you can define the type of content. I know that in Instagram, nowadays you have the, I don't know if you've noticed, but when you have the posts, sometimes you have the not interest and interest. So you can choose, and based on that, this kind of a function will also be related with privacy, and also in your settings, you have, for example, who can see your profile. What kind of thing, you can either select even the tags, for example, I don't want to see this, or I don't want to see this person. And this can actually make it a little bit better to control what you are accessing to. So the second technique is diversify information sources. So I think you guys probably also do this, whether you are aware of it or not, because a lot of the times the platforms that we have so many platforms indeed, that sometimes we can't help but do this by ourselves. So it's like, whether it's like cross-platform reading or mix some media types. I know a lot of students nowadays, and this especially, I've seen this especially in Xiaohongshu, where the students will somehow compare the news and do a whole post and compare the news of the Western media and the East media, and they will be like, okay, CNN said this, and then BBC said this, but actually the Chinese media said this, or the Chinese government news said this, and they will like compare. And for example, in the West, I find it very hard to find posts like this. So this is actually something that I've already seen many people do here. And so they will, for example, compare many of them and check, oh, is this something reliable? What are they saying? What are we saying? Like, and what can be trusted and what are the facts? And then, for example, follow opposing viewpoints. This one maybe not so much, but it's something you guys can do. No matter what you believe in, go always search for something that is opposite or that might question what you actually believe in. Because this will help you kind of be like, okay, he's saying that. Why is he saying that? Does he have proof? What is he basing his information on? And what am I basing my information on? Did I search correctly, or did I just saw a video of a person I like and believed it? So this is actually great for you guys to do as practice. And then, of course, the technique number 3 is cultivate critical thinking. Question it frequently. Like, who is the source? What is this person's motive for saying something like this? What are the opposing views? Can I verify this information? And for example, don't be so quick to judge whether something is right or not without actually searching for proof. And of course, use fact checking. When you, even though these websites are just like a small part, you can use fact checking so many times. For example, I remember during COVID time, so many fake news were coming up. And I remember one of the things it was really hard to prove was, at the time, we didn't have many resources to fact check something or say, oh, this was based on this or this was based on that. So at the time when I was here in MUST, one of the things that our scholars actually did was try to develop research to make sure there was no misinformation and to keep everything very rational, and so people wouldn't panic. And you should do the same, no matter what. If there is anything you are doubtful of, don't be afraid to go and check. Is it true? Is it not true? Can I base this opinion on academic published articles, for example, or books? Or is there a top researcher that's actually researching on this, and what can he tell us? And so we should delay judgment, use fact checks, and of course, try to separate fact from opinion, which nowadays seems very difficult to do. It's like something people can't do well. It's like we sometimes are too emotional and let our judgments and our opinions be led by these emotions just because we feel some type of way. But actually, we should be aware of this pretty constantly. And then the technique 4 is like use tools and tech. So nowadays we have so much. Actually, we are pretty lucky. We have access to a lot of things that in the past people didn't. And so one of the things we can use, for example, is RSS readers. So this usually bypasses algorithms because it's well, I wouldn't say it's old. Otherwise, I'm giving myself away. But it's something that we used to use a lot in the 90s and early 2000s. And it's something that somehow algorithms can't necessarily touch. So you can still use this a little bit. And this will maybe help you to avoid some of the bubbles that you may find yourself in. And then you have, for example, some browser extensions, so Private Badger or uBlock. So this will block some tracking. But I'm sure in China you guys have a lot of them as well. This is something easily accessible. And then of course you have the VPNs, NordVPN, Proton, which usually access global content. So if you feel like, for example, you're in a situation you cannot access the news very well and you are wondering like, okay, I need to know what other people are saying about this, make sure you use a VPN. You guys are also familiar with that. And search engines, you guys can change. So this will have non-personalized results. I'm personally not a big fan of this because sometimes the engines, for example, I was, throughout my whole life, I used Google. And for me, it's something I've been used to. And I miss that. Whenever I don't use it, I miss that kind of personalized results and the way that they work to find information. But if you don't care about that, just use other engines, like when you're trying to access websites. I think it makes no difference. And then, of course, fact checkers. You have nowadays a lot of platforms that actually verify claims and do that comparison as well, as I've seen some people doing social media. So they go through different news, or even I've seen also some articles of different, for example, different scholars defending different opinions, and they will go and check, is this study well done? How come this study is different? Why are they saying different things? And so these people will fact check and make sure it's helpful for you to identify what is being done or not. And then news aggregators, so Google News or Flipboard, so, and there's more, by the way, and you can easily find this as well online. They will just give you this comparison between all of the news and from different political perspectives or different religious perspectives, and what can this mean? And then you can, of course, do your own judgment based on all of this. And then this is technique number 5. So you can, like, for example, focus on quantity driven out of quality driven. And so you can, I don't know, some of the tips will be set reading priorities, or choose what type of deep content you want to search for. Use also reader later tools, so it's not like you're immediately accessing the information, like you're taking a step back to take some time to absorb and check what it is that the information it is. You can read some classics. Don't just, I think a lot of the times in this new era, we focus so much on speed content, like on things that are very fast. We can actually like slow down and choose to step back and read something that is not necessarily like immediately at the tip of our fingers. Like you can go to the library, get a book, get some type of a different perspective, try to understand other types of content, and not just immediately the fast-paced thing. Also, take notes is actually a great way for you to work your brain out. When you're dealing with a lot of information, especially if it's something that is emotionally motivated, that you somehow feel you struggle with, take notes on it. Why does this news make you feel I don't know, angry or frustrated? And why is a specific opinion from somebody else makes you feel some type of way? Go deep on it, like check yourself. Why am I so emotional? What does this say about me and the content that I'm consuming? And of course, limit daily intake. I know you guys probably like, come on, like we can't like just get out of the apps. I know, I struggle with the same thing. Just try to put a limitation, for example, like 30 minutes or 1 hour. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but there are people who spend more than 5 hours on their phones. I know for you guys are like, isn't that normal? But actually it's not that normal. Like it really changes our brain chemistry. So just, you need to limit the way you consume your phone or your computers. Okay, and then technique number 6 is to build healthy information habits. So not doom scrolling, as I said before. And also, try to deep read instead of shallow browsing. So even if you're searching something, pay attention to the post. So sometimes, for example, I will see some 小红书posts about, like, I don't know, some books. I will actually take the time, stop, read, translate, then check some of the comment and spend some time on that piece of content to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. I'm not like just checking it and then that's it. Oh, I liked it and that's it. No, try to understand it a little bit. Then of course, limit social media time. You can use screen to, actually iPhone does this already, which is you can limit the time you spend on an app and it will block you from it, even though temporarily, and you can unblock it. But anyway, it works, but it works for some people. And then search actively instead of passively consuming. So go after what you think will be good for you that day. One of the things my friend does is every time she feels like she's spending too much time on social media, she will actually go search something that she has no idea about. And this is actually a great practice for everybody. For example, she told me last time, she was like, okay, I don't know what are the circumference of the planets. And she was like, I'm just going to search for it. And she went on Google and searched for that and spent some time learning about something completely different that she has no idea about. And and that kind of search has no interest for her work or for her daily life. She doesn't need that knowledge to survive, but it's something for her to take a step back and go search for something else. and release her mind of the doom scrolling or what are the people doing? Are they traveling or are they, I don't know, spending money on something that is unnecessary? No. So she went back and she's like, no, I'm going to learn something that I'm not sure benefits me in any way, but could be interesting. And this is actually very helpful advice. So remember this, every time you're feeling a little bit frustrated and anxious and you're on your phone constantly, go, no, if I have to be on the phone, then I'm going to search about something I have no idea about and maybe learn something in between. And then, of course, organize the info by bookmarks and notes. This is also something you guys do as students. And yeah, reflect weekly on your info diet. For example, every week you should be doing like a little bit of self-reflection. Did I spend too much time on TikTok this week? Did I interact a lot with Instagram posts that did not contribute for my well-being and just, I don't know, left me depressed or sad, or with some news that have no interest for my life? Try to do this reflection. What can you change? What can you improve on this behavior? And then, I don't know if you guys want to do this. This is just a little quiz, but you guys don't need to, but if you guys want to try, like, I don't know, you guys can scan the QR code. And it's just some questions about the, let me see if I can access it from here. It's just some questions about the presentation, but you guys don't need to. Let me see if I can, okay. Yeah, so this is just questions like, you guys can ask this for other people. So who introduced the term information cocoon, like the first major platform? This is just like basically a review of what we have done here. So, but it's in English. So I know you guys, some of you guys are like not comfortable with it, but you guys can do this later. It doesn't need to, yeah, because I don't want to pressure you guys into doing the form, but I don't know. Okay, so do you guys want to discuss about it? Do you guys have any experience, like, or do you guys often feel overwhelmed by social media, or what do you guys? Well, in your case, you're needing it for your research on AI, but I don't know. Do you guys want to say something? No, to try. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. I think
Mm.
the ways we control this cocoon is quite difficult nowadays.
Yeah.
I used to work for TikTok, Chinese doing. So at that time, they are constructing their algorithm, but that was very simple one. As in like 2020, but I'm sure they have more subtle algorithm. Because during 2020, it's more like related to political issues that you have to control, that was coming from the Western countries. Like they have some information which they want to go into the Chinese social media, but now they are more focusing on the commercial use or the markets. You've mentioned that we can use the cross platforms. But I think that was quite difficult because these days algorithm in China does not relate to your accounts. It's based on your numbers. So if you like scrolling some information in Bilibili or TikTok, and then you go into your Taobao, you will directly recommend something that relates to what you've seen. And so I think it's quite difficult
to control.
Yes, but I think it. I think that the advantages or the disadvantages may not override the disadvantages because it's just a tool. So in China there is maybe more strict censorships. Like you said, there are fake news,
Yeah.
or the government is trying to make people believe something, and the people like who are less educated are so easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
So and you know, we have a big population which may cause more strict issues if we don't have this strict censorship.
Yeah.
So I think the government is using this algorithm to keep the society stable.
Stable, yes. On one hand, to be honest, I kind of agree with it. The reason why I'm saying this is because, you know, during COVID, I was here already in Macau. But one of the issues that happened was when I was here and I was receiving information from both sides, of course, because I still have some families back in Portugal. But I eventually had to delete my Instagram because I was, every time I posted something, like, for example, let's say you guys should wear a mask, everybody should clean their hands, something. Some people in Portugal, fed by other news, like Western news or American, I don't know, panic-induced news, kept telling me, no, why should we use a mask? And I was shocked, you know, because here we were really following the rules and trying to make everybody safe and healthy. But then in the West, people were being manipulated into thinking this was a form of control. And in my mind, as you know, being here and there at the same time, I was shocked how people could be easily manipulated by the panic induced instead of, for example, following some controlled measures, which, okay, in Macau, I have to admit they were a little bit too much, because actually Macau only got rid of COVID restrictions in 2023, which is not that long ago. Actually, it's like 2 years or 2022 and 2022. So it's like, but it took 3 years for Macau to be released from those restrictions. But at the same time, I think if you have a lot of control, you have a problem. But if you don't have any control, you also have a huge problem. And then eventually I had to delete I deactivated at the time because the people who are doctors, by the way, were telling me, you don't need to wear a mask. It's like, are you crazy? Like, we are here struggling, like, people are dying. Like, we need to absolutely wear a mask and wash our hands and do whatever we can to minimize the risk of. But then, of course, it was also very controlled here, and it's also not healthy. Like, to the point where we took 3 years to leave COVID restrictions, when at the time we should have already been easing into it, like other countries were doing. So it's tough, and I agree with you. We can't escape it. I don't think. I think, especially, yes, you were right, and you mentioned that, and maybe I talked to my colleague, and we can add this in the next presentation, which is the differences between how you access the platform. For example, in the West, is mostly by your email. Not your phone as well, but mostly by your email. And in China, is your phone number. Yeah, for almost everything. Like, you can log in with your phone number. And this also has a huge difference in the way people like access the platform and how platforms calculate and exchange information based on this.
So do Westerners think that this is kind of invasion of privacy because you have to make accounts based on your phone number?
You know, it's more prevalent in Europe. Europe is very careful about privacy matters. Even though a lot of the times European Union goes against their own, their own regulations in that sense. Like, for example, they will care and they will say, oh, we care about user protection, privacy things, and then they will be like, but actually you can access this and this and this. And we're like, excuse me, what? This is why I sometimes think it's a little bit of hypocrisy. Like, China, at least, they tell you, we are going to control this. But in the West, they will make you think they are not, and then you have some type of freedom. But actually, they're doing exactly the same thing, just lying about it. You understand what I mean? So this is sometimes very hard to make sense of. And sometimes you look at, I don't know, for example, in the case of TikTok, I think you guys know that the US wanted to ban TikTok. And then suddenly there was a lot of people coming to Xiaohongshu because it was not banned. And there was like a huge, you guys don't know this. Or do you guys know this? Yeah, and then the Western, like American people were like all going to Xiaohongshu because they can no longer access TikTok. And it was a huge thing. But in fact, they do the same thing with Instagram. They control this because they can claim that TikTok was like, I don't know, somehow, some form of espionage or whatever. They do the same thing with Instagram. The American government also controls the Instagram and what you see, and they check on what, you know what I mean? There's no privacy, but they will make you think that they're respecting your freedom or whatever it is, and it's not the truth. So it's tough, and I don't think we have a solution for it because they won't admit that they are doing this actively.
So there will be sacrifice of privacy
Yeah.
in order to keep the social stability. That's just the difference. And did they tell you they have invaded your privacy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the only difference is, at least I think in China you guys have like you guys are aware. First of all, of course, I know so many people that go to China, they use VPN. It's a normal thing because sometimes you need to access something else outside of China. And this is considered, even though maybe not very legal, but considered a normal thing because you guys are already aware of these restrictions. But in the West, sometimes people go around living as if they are very free and and nobody's controlling them, which is a lie. This is an illusion that they have. And in Europe is somewhere in between, like they will often like do something that is very like, let's say, human or human in terms of humanitarian like level, but at the same time they will also do something on the back. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Just that it's the reality. You guys want to say anything? Okay. Okay, let's just summarize. So basically, for this, we just wanted you guys to recognize how algorithms limit your views, how recommendation systems work, also how you can try to change your mindset a little bit and just get out of this bubble, also how you can think critically and seek diversity, and of course, build good habits. So yeah, we hope this course was, useful for you guys. I know this is not very deep, but actually it's not our intention. We are just a literacy course from the library. And we just want you guys to maybe be a little bit more aware. Now we know, okay, you guys are like very young. You guys were born in the internet age. And this is like very common for everybody, but it's just so we can summarize a little bit and make sure you guys are more aware. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can either email Wang Wu, my colleague, or me. My Chinese name is Bailina, but you guys can email us and just ask for the presentation. And if you guys want the Chinese presentation, I can send you later, or the bilingual is also fine. Yeah. Okay, that's it, guys.